Hey everyone, today's my weekly live video and where basically we take 5 questions that you may have and I will answer those 5 questions. And you're also welcome to add more questions to this, and as the comments and the discussion engages, we can certainly dive into any other topics you have. I'm here again to make myself accessible to this exclusive community and group because you mean a lot to me. And I have my tea, which I'll drink now. What's this message say today? Work hard and do great things. Okay, that's nice. So, now in the absence of some of the questions, I mean, some people have asked questions, which is great, but what I'll do is I'll actually suggest some questions that I think people really want to ask or should be really be thinking about. And what I really want to get into, and again, you can ask questions if you want, but the one thing I really want to get to is just the importance of confidence. And confidence is something that is a root success factor for a lot of what we do. So some people say, well, Bobby, how do you do so well? How do you do so well on stage? You seem so confident. I said, well, I am confident. I'm confident that I can do a really good job because I've done it thousands of times. For in other cases, you don't know. And I see Angie, I'm not sure how long you can stay. That's fine, Angie, but let me know if you have a question, and I'm happy to answer the question. I'm just talking about confidence right now. So, and confidence in everything comes into play. When I played chess in tournaments, I would go in and confidence would definitely help me do well against players. I remember one time, my best tournament I ever had was I played my first game and I won, great. And then I played my second game, and every time you win, you play a tougher opponent. Then I played a second player who was my main rival in the high school chess scene, and I played him and I beat him. I was like, okay, good, I got past that one. So now I had a little bit of confidence. Then my next player was the city champ, and I was like, oh boy, but I was feeling pretty good. I went in and I beat him, and I was like, wow, this is great. And then finally, they put me up against the provincial champion. And I did that, and shockingly, I beat him. And it was a huge upset because he was like rated 500 points ahead of me. And then after that tournament, I won an award, and my rating shot up by 250 points. And that really improved my confidence. And then pretty soon I started doing really much better in chess than I normally would. And confidence helps with networking. It helps with video making. We talked about the other day about how some people are like, well, I'm making videos, but I feel awkward, or how do I do it? But ultimately, when you do a lot of these things and you get good at it, your confidence will improve. And confidence is built in many ways. Confidence builds by working with a coach like me, where we talk about stuff, we talk about your beliefs, we talk about your mindset. Confidence comes from repeated action and a series of consistent positive successes. You start to get used to it. Another way to build confidence is with a coach, with a group, with a support network. We talked about that as well. And then, of course, a lot of you know that myself and Angie are doing this thing called Sage Squad, which is about, looking at doing physical PQ reps, or positive intelligent quotient reps, physical manifestations to try to make yourself more aware of your body and to get your mind focused. And then to label negative emotions and let them go and focus on the sage emotions that are better for you. So manage your mindset is also a big part of building confidence. Now, I see 2 questions here already. How do you find inspiration, and tips for building a great presentation and then delivering? So, yeah, I mean, and I understand confidence is something that gets to all of us. Same with me. Like, confidence certainly hits me sometimes when people ask me about my price point for something I don't know much about. When people say, what does it cost for a speech? Boom, I just say it. How much does it cost to do a GMAT weekend? Boom, I've been doing it for 15 years, so I know what the cost is. How much does it cost for you to do a request for proposal on a analysis of my website? I don't know. And then I was like, and then that confidence, like, what? It's gone. So you have that. So when you lack that, you may undersell, oversell, but you may not know. You may not have the confidence to give yourself to know your value and know that this is what it should cost, because you start to second guess yourself. Now let's go back to the first question, which is, how do you find inspiration? Well, I mean, the number one way in which I find inspiration is through my why statement. And I've said this why statement over and over again. My why statement is, there are lost, stuck, or unfulfilled leaders everywhere. So what does that mean? It means that everywhere I go, from my speeches to my workplaces, to my entrepreneurship, to my family, my friends, everywhere I go, I meet people who feel lost in their career, stuck in their jobs, or unfulfilled in their relationships or their projects or pursuits. And so in doing so, I know how these people feel. I know the pain they're feeling of feeling lost, stuck, unfulfilled, because I've been there. I know the bliss they can feel because I've been able to feel the bliss of not feeling lost, having more focus and direction, not feeling unfulfilled, having more happiness, joy, and purpose, not feeling stuck, having clarity and direction and a path to where I want to go. And so that applies to everything that I do. It applies to this group and the coaching that I'm providing. It applies to my kids as their dad. It applies to my wife as her husband. It applies to my parents as their son. It applies to my friends as a good friend. It applies to everything I do, speeches, coaching, programs, everything I'm doing is because of that why statement. And that why statement fuels me because I feel how everyone is, and that motivates me to want to serve and to want to do a better job. So that's one thing that inspires me. The other thing that inspires me is really you personally, like even just this engagement and the questions, and that helps. It helps it inspires me because one of my personal brand things I care about is nurturing and people. My top 5 brand elements. People is one. The other one's nurturing. So right now, this is inspiring me to have this call to this special community to help you guys out, right? So that inspires me. The other thing that inspires me is getting good feedback, positive feedback from clients, from companies, from my network. The support network I think is really great. I think that really is really good in terms of inspiring me. And then the other thing that inspires me is people out there who are doing really, really good work. I get inspired by people who are like, wow, like when someone has done a good job of losing weight, I'm like, wow, I want to lose weight too. Someone does a good job of doing a speech. Wow, that was a great speech. I remember like when I did my first TEDx talk, I saw a guy open and he was amazing. I was like, wow. And part of me was intimidated, but part of me was like, wow, I'm inspired. Let me go practice mine because I want to deliver. And I was just really inspired by it because he did such an amazing job. So these are things that definitely inspire me to be better. And then the other thing is mindset. A mindset around the idea that a better me is a better everything else. So the more I work on myself and my mindset and my confidence, my skills and my expertise and my growth, the better I'll be as your coach, as your community leader, as a parent, as a worker, as a speaker, as everything that I'm doing. So it all fits together. And so that mindset for me, and not that I don't have bad days. Yeah, I have bad days or bad hours, but for the most part, I've been able to create a more confident way of looking at things and creating some inspiration for what I'm trying to do. So for me, that's the main thing I do. And if you have any other questions in this group, you can certainly ask below, let me know. But that's kind of how I find inspiration. And maybe the last way to look at inspiration is, think of the end goal. What's the result that you're going to have? So for some of you who are, for example, have been too shy to share a post or ask a question or share a project or a video or a story or something you're working on, or for people who haven't been willing to do like that next video or do the 10 tips challenge, right? What's the end goal? Think about that. The end goal could be something like, I want to inspire people. I want to inform people. I want to build my brand. I want to get clients. I want to build conversations and lead generation. And all those things are probably things we all want. But if you begin with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey says, then that also could be an inspiration for you to just get going. Because one of the hardest things for people to do is to just start. And that's with everything. Fitness, life, business, personal, love. Just start. And that's when you're in a much better position than anyone else. Someone who started and done a video 6 times is way more ahead than someone who's done 0 videos 0 times, right? So that's an important piece to keep in mind, okay? Let's go to another question. Tips for building a great presentation. Well, there's many types of presentations, so it might be good to get some clarity around what type of presentation you mean. But, I have my own signature formula for doing presentations, having been a speaker for 15 years. I'll tell you what I do, Okay, so for almost, and I'm doing actually one. I'm doing one next week. It's a virtual presentation for a big client, so I'm really excited about that. But I'll tell you what I do. My general way in which I do it is number one, I take the time to understand my audience and what their challenges are and things like that. But in my presentation, I will start talking about the challenges, and I'll actually engage the audience to see what kind of challenges they have and see if they can give me some information on challenges. That's one. The second thing I do is I'm really big on sharing a personal story. So I share a personal story, usually something very vulnerable, something raw and authentic that they can really resonate with, just from the past, and how, and as long as it relates to what they're doing, what the goal of the presentation is. Then I give data. I'm really big on sharing pieces of data that will make them think, so, oh, well, that's interesting. That's very compelling to make me want to change my mind. And then I dive into the presentation, and I say, and throughout the presentation, I throw in some of the data. I'll throw in some case studies as I make a case for why you should do X, Y, or Z. So, for example, when I talk about the importance of storytelling, I'll say, well, here's where I'm with storytelling and what I struggle with and where I am now. Here's the data of storytelling, and here's my theory and tips on how to become an effective storyteller. And then I share some case studies. Same with personal branding, right? The challenge of being unfocused and unfulfilled, and why personal branding matters. The data around employee engagement and fulfillment and impact around personal branding, and then case studies of people in business who've done it. And then I go through the theory and the strategies and the tips and the tactics. And then usually the best way to sum it up is some sort of case study. And throughout my talk, I'll also throw in some inspiration, whether it's an inspirational quote or an inspirational story. Those things I think really help. And then the final thing I do in the presentation is I sum up, right? So one of the golden rules of presentations is you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them what you told them. Because people can't remember stuff, right? I mean, even from this video and this live call, what are you gonna remember? Like, you can't remember the full 30 minutes, but what are the 2 or 3 key takeaways? So whether I do an hour presentation or a half day or even a full day presentation. And some of my full day ones, they go a long time. I do a full day presentation on presentation skills, or a full day presentation on personal branding. At the very end, I can't summarize. Okay, so here are the 17 key things to remember. Like, you can't do that. What are the 3 to 5 things that you want people to remember from the discussion, right? Whether it's a day or whether it's an hour, because people can't remember stuff. And I summarize it, and I say, here are the things I really want you to do. And again, there's always going to be that call to action, right? I want you to act now. I don't want you to, and I'm really big on doing 2 things. One is I have a call to action, and there's an invitation to follow up with me. If you have questions or you want to work on this or you need some help with this, message me here. Like, for example, in our community, I'll say, look, if you're working on a story or working on a presentation or working on anything, put it in the group and ask for feedback, and I will follow up. And you follow up with us, and I invite you to follow up and share your stuff, because this is a community that supports one another. And so that's kind of why I do that, because I think it's really important. So for me, that's kind of where those are probably the best tips I can give you for, delivering great presentation. But it all comes down to a couple things, which is, number one, knowing your audience. Right? You have to know who your audience is, what they want, how they feel, what are they hoping to get out of this. Often when I work with clients on mindset, and particularly if you want to become a coach or a speaker, or you want to put great content out there, I suggest people to kind of close their eyes, right? So close your eyes, imagine your ideal audience, right? Imagine the room. What does the room look like? Is it a big room? Is it a small room? Is it intimate? Is it a large stage? Is it outdoors, indoors? How big is your audience? 5 people, 10 people, 100, 1,000? And then what you do is you imagine the audience, whatever they are, and then break them down. Are they men, women, different backgrounds, age, things like that? Are those, what do those people look like? And then this is the most important part. Once you envision the room and the audience and who they are, now, how are they feeling? And think in terms of this way. I want you to imagine that these people are super pumped to hear you speak. They're like, oh man, Angie or Warren's coming in here, and oh man, I paid top dollar to be here because I cannot wait to hear what he or she has to say. And what is it? So, and then think about that. Reflect. What is it that they want to hear? What is it that they want you to talk about? And so that's important, right? And sorry, that's my wife at the door. Don't worry about that. So that's an important piece. What are they hoping to hear from you? And if you can imagine what those things are, right? And I know I've talked to some of you guys, like for example, Warren, you've talked about the journey and the importance of embracing and empowering the journey. I think that's a great thing to talk about. You talk about diversity, and you talk about leadership, and you talk about the challenges, struggles that people in chemical engineering and tech and petroleum and gas, the challenges they're having. These are things that you want to make sure that you can navigate, right? So that's why it's important to think about what those people really want. And so when I do that, I do the exact same thing. I think about what they want and what they're looking to get, right? So that's how I put together a very strong presentation. And then, of course, other things you can do is, visuals. Like when I do my PowerPoints, for example, I make sure I put in a lot. I put the structure in first, put all the text in first. And once you're done now, what kind of visuals can you use to make it more appealing? What kind of quotes can you add? What kind of case studies? The structure of the presentation I do first, and then I throw in all the other kind of bells and whistles of that. And even same thing when I'm doing videos. Like, a lot of people ask me, I've been doing the 10 tips, 10 days on storytelling. So just today on LinkedIn, I launched my tip number 7 on storytelling. And today was on build a library of stories across a broad range of all your experiences and the experiences of others that you think are really inspiring that you can use for any moment. And so I structured it. It was a very brief structure, but I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to go with it, right? And I know what my 10th video is already going to be. It's going to be a call to action to join me for doing storytelling and doing like my storytelling workshop. That's the end result, and then eventually join my community. But that's the structure of my storytelling tips. And so everyone should also do that. You should think about a structure behind everything you do, because that's also going to help you. So, and I see Warren says it's essential to remember and incorporate the call to action. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people forget to, and sometimes you have to say it. Don't assume the audience knows what you're thinking or what you want them to do, right? I mean, the library approach, you see the library behind me, I have books and DVDs and CDs and all that kind of stuff that's back there, right? But yeah, I mean, your library stories can be, you pull it out every single time you need something. You pull that one story out for that interview, you pull that other story out for that video, you pull that other story out for that networking event. And some stories, like my cheeseburger story, I've told dozens of times, and some stories about my networking group story about Vino and Sasha. Those are 2 separate stories. I've literally told that story 1,000 times, both of those stories, because they work, and so I keep doing them. And then I have those rare gems where sometimes someone asks a really odd question. Like I remember one time in a talk, someone asked about having dark days. And I remember the 4 of us were on stage, 4 speakers and 4 inspirational speakers. And I decided to share a story about a really dark day I had. And it was actually quite illuminating, because, most speakers, like myself, who, I was known for an inspirational and motivational speaker type thing, they don't talk about the dark days, but I went there. And then pretty soon the other 3 guys who were with me, they went there too. And it became this really huge, fantastic discussion. Like, wow, okay, all these big, inspiring speakers have dark days. And I told that. And that story was a rare story. I call them those rare gems. I don't share them very often, but, they're there because they're real. And I just happened to, find it in the rare book story section of my mind. And I was, let me tell the story about how when I graduated university and I watched TV 10 hours a day, and I had no purpose or direction, and I felt like a failure, and I don't even remember it now. It was so dark. I spent 7 months in that zone when I came back from university when I was like 23, and I don't even remember what I did. All I know is I spent all my days and nights watching TV and playing video games. And that's all I did. And I think my parents were super worried, super concerned, but that's all I did. I did dinners, and I went to the things my parents were doing, but other than that, I did nothing else. And 7 months, can you imagine 7 months of that? From September to March, around there, that's kind of what it was. And wow, and it happens. It happens to a lot of us where we have these, and I shared that experience, and it related to a lot of people. So, I think that's really helpful. So, yeah. So, I mean, if you have any other questions on things that that I'm talking about, I'm happy to share. But that we've talked a bit about finding inspiration. We've talked about how to build great presentations. Well, and the thing about sharing the dark days, is the fact that, look, we're all human. We're all going through stuff. Every single person out there, no matter how famous or successful or happy or fulfilled they are, still have dark days. Even people who, and what's interesting too is there's even a lot of people out there who are successful who they actually lash out when you try to call something out, and they're like, whoa, and there are people who are in denial about the darkness or the confidence piece or their flaws or whatever, but they should acknowledge those things, and they just don't even acknowledge it. And I've seen it all the time, even with the most confident people. I've had some really weird conversation with some folks. So it happens. But I think that when you focus on humanity and focus on vulnerability and authenticity, that's where you make a deeper connection, because we've all been there. And that's why I think sharing your journey along the way, and why I've done 700, 800 videos about my journey, and why I'm willing to share all these stories, is because it makes me more relatable, and hopefully it makes people want to share their stuff, and then we can work together to really get to the next level. That's what, if you can create that trust and build that connection, we can all work together to take our journey to that next level. That's why room number 5 exists. That's why this community exists, because it is the opportunity for us to really be rare, share the rare stories, be raw, be honest, and get to that next level. And that's my purpose. That's my why. That's where I find inspiration. So that's it for the my weekly live. Again, the weekly live is every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're welcome to share questions in advance. You're welcome to ask questions on the day of, but I prefer questions in advance so I can prepare a few stories and a few pieces of data that might help you. Continue this, and if you have any other questions, you can always post questions via video or text in the group, and then we'll help get to what you're doing. Just a point of order: there's a few people here that still haven't shared their stories. By all means, please do. And a few people have shared some of their their own kind of stories and asking for help. So I encourage you to please go and support those people and help those people out. I saw 2 video posts the last 2 days where people are asking for support and feedback. Please give them that support, give them that feedback. They would do the same for you. I would do the same for you. So let's all do the same for another. That's kind of the culture that we're trying to build here to help one another out. All right. Today's actually Remembrance Day and Veterans Day and all the different things we remember the veterans. So there'll be a moment of silence at 11:11, right, which is coming up really soon. Anyway, all the best, and I'll see you guys again.